pretty depressing. It's not only depressing, it's rather demeaning. And as a mom who carried him around for 9 months, I'm not pleased. I mean, I sit there during the day, sometimes doing the dishes, and I break down. I mean, I'll be doing dishes and I'll be breaking down because I ne- I never thought that it would come to anything like this.
Well, myself, I don't like seeing Brendan in shackles. It bothers me.
It was awful. It was another, I feel like I hurt them almost more than I hurt myself. I was actually pretty smart, Then I just started being like, why am I doing this? I'd rather, hang out with like the cool crew or whatever you want to call it. So I started doing that, and then after that, I get into drinking, drugs, and then it just, I like drugs a lot. I have very addictive behavior. It just blew up, is what I'm trying to say.
Darcy noticed it first. I kind of stepped in, had spoken to him at other times, but I think it was kind of like I'm not going to listen to him. That's the feeling, I got.
I feel like I'm a very well-rounded individual that I just screwed up. And I'm not a person, and I don't think a lot of people are, the type of people, you tell me something and you tell me what the consequences are, I'll hear you, but I'm really not listening. You know what I mean? So then the only reason I can actually learn was by the consequence itself. And then I figured, I can't do that. And that's the sad truth with me. And I think that's the sad truth with about 80% of the people, is they have to learn by consequence. And it's a sad truth. Because I mean, a lot of things I'm saying right now could help somebody, but they're not. I don't know. I just feel like many people won't listen, just because they have to figure it out themselves. And that's, the sad truth once again.
We had hoped that a couple of scares he had would have shaken him up. He had gotten a DWI, for example, and we thought that would have shaken him up, but it did not. And I think at that point is where he started getting into other drugs in the sense of marijuana, which is very prevalent, very easy to come by again in our area.
To tell you the truth, I really can't remember the last 5 years of my life. Like, I have no idea really what happened. I know there were definitely a lot of fun times, and there was a lot of times that it's just a blur to me. It's just a 5-year blur. I have really no idea what happened. I wasn't probably the nicest person. I was actually, angry a lot of times. I was short-tempered, and it was even worse when I was doing drugs.
He'd blow up at me if I made a suggestion about something, and I knew that wasn't quite right. And even when he had it, his girlfriend would be there, he'd be screaming at her. I remember him punching a wall and thinking to myself, what is going on here? What is making him so angry? He seems so angry, and I just thought at that point it was an adolescence roller coaster ride that we were on.
After he left Hudson Valley, he said, well, we're going to come up. He wanted to come to Plattsburgh. And we said, well, maybe this is it, right? He'll be on his own now. Maybe it's time for him to kind of break away a little bit. I know most people, girls and fellas his age, they like to go away to college, and we thought that would be it. When I was 18, 19, you like to go out and drink and party and all that. It's not the right thing to do, but it's kind of the thing that I thought, well, he's probably just going to go through that, and this is going to be the end, I get a little of this, and he'll get up here to college and start straightening out, and that'll be behind us. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
There's pros and cons to everything you do. The pros of the drugs are mainly, there's a euphoria, of course. There's no denying that. But the consequences just totally outweigh the pro. Loss of freedom from jail, health problems. Mainly it comes down to 3 things: jails, institutions, and death. I've already hit 2 of them many times, and I don't want the 3rd one, and I don't think anybody does.
My father was a very serious alcoholic for many years, probably since he was 12 or 13. And as a matter of fact, my father died on Mother's Day of 1998 of alcohol dementia.
My father was an alcoholic also, and my father was a pretty violent man, but he passed away when I was 16 when he passed away. But I can honestly say I was not sad at that time to see him go. And it took many years, probably 20 or more years, before I look at my father differently, now, and understand more of what he went through and what demons he had in his mind and so on that caused him to act that way. We've kind of had a relationship where Darcy was always very close to Brendan, and I'm sad to say that we were always kind of distant. I was always involved in my work and doing other things and just not spending as much time.
I was like a loner, I guess. I don't really know what it is. At least towards my parents, I didn't really almost care, actually. I guess that's the word. I was just out there, Oh, cocaine. I was doing cocaine frequently. I mean, it was not a good thing. And plus, sometimes I'd mix it with E, and a couple of times I really didn't think I was going to make it. But I was just like, I didn't really want to go to the hospital, and I was just sitting there. I thought my heart was going to explode. It's not a fun feeling. But the sad truth about it is I still kept on doing drugs the rest of the night.
I think probably the way he's speaking now, they would have taken him out in a body bag from the frat house, it sounds like. Doesn't sound too healthy. I didn't know all this stuff with the heart racing, which I know cocaine does, that I found out later on. But that's really, it's very scary to know that somebody was involved that deeply in something. And I knew, and I know it, and I thought that, probably the reason that he wasn't doing well, or he wasn't getting up and he wasn't going to, I knew he missed a class here and there, but I didn't know all this stuff. This is kind of not only interesting, but scary, and I'm a little angry at knowing all this stuff too, that, you're taking loans out and spending money and somebody's doing all these kinds of things. But I just think it would have all ended up and he would have died. And that's I think the ultimate in fear for me, is to lose my only child to something that's just a waste of time. Drugs are a waste of time.
If I sold drugs, I just figured it out. It was free. So I could do as much as I wanted for free. Well, of course, people treat you maybe a little bit better because, you have something that you can give them. So, yeah. And I guess, you do get a little added, high from that, because you're even that much more popular, which is kind of sad. I never really thought I'd need to boost my self-esteem up, but I guess deep down I did.
He's hurt a lot of other people. He's not only hurt us, but I don't know who he's harmed. Whose addiction has he promoted by doing all this? Who's he hurt? How many fellow students has he hurt? How many family situations has he made worse with this dealing? That's another scary element for me. But I think that law enforcement is important, and Ed and I all know ill will toward law enforcement, where I think we're glad that they're there, and we're glad that they're doing their job.
I'm a better person now. Not because of the drugs. The drugs, they put me in this situation, but tell you the truth, the situation has actually set me straight. I don't know. Sometimes you would think that, I would always think that, maybe I would just stop, but, there's people twice my age still doing the same thing, and I don't want to be that person whatsoever. Two sides to everything I always did. It was all or nothing. Either, I was with this girl or I wasn't with her, or I'd do drugs or I wouldn't do them at all. It was this addictive behavior. Now I'm starting to come towards the middle with everything, and that's the way I'm going to live the rest of my life. Self-help, AA, and NA, and personally, no. NA, I feel it's a bunch of people. It's like a zoo in there. Just people running and yelling. They're still on drugs when they go to these meetings, so it's pointless. AA, I find it almost too depressing for me to go to. So I've gone to some, yes. I've gone to many of them, but they're just not for me. The way with me is definitely, I'm going to stick with counseling. And anytime I do forget, I'll just look at this video and look at myself now. If I don't want drugs right now, I don't feel, why would I want them in the future? There's no reason for it. If I wanted to do drugs, I easily could have done them, but I don't want them anymore. It's not even, it's like, the last thing I have to kick is cigarettes. That's it. That's the only thing I want right now is a cigarette. That's about it. There's nothing else. It's just out, and even if I saw them right in front of me, I wouldn't even want to do them. I'd just get it away from me. It sickens me looking at them. They've brought me nothing but pain and suffering. That's about it.
Before all this had started, Brendan was always a great kid, very caring about other people, willing to go out of his way for other people. And I'm seeing more of that now.
And I'm really pleased about the new relationship between he and his dad. And I feel that there's hope.
It's just a slow process, but I said some things that I never really said before. Things like I love you, things like that. I wasn't like that. I'm a very rigid person. Things like I love you. Yeah, like, I was a very rigid person. I still am. I'm working on it. It's a hard thing. You just got to work on it. They're my anchor. They're always going to be there for me, and I decided and didn't think of that way. I mean, they're going to love me unconditionally, whatever I do. So now, it's the time to pay back. It's payback time. I was a bad kid. Let's put it that way. And now, I'm trying to be good. And I'm ready to start my life over again. Right. That's a clean slate. That's how I look at it. I'm a totally different person right now. As long as I keep my humor and other things about me that I, perceive as good. But drugs certainly isn't one of them. I know what I want to do. I know exactly where I want to go. I have direction now. And, I did it before. I was just lost, 5 majors. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. And now I do. Direction. And it's nice.
Ed's therapist had said to me something that really bothered me, and I think it's going to bother me for the rest of my life, but he said, Darcy, he said, as an educator, I just don't understand why you didn't see the signs. And I said, I don't know why I didn't see the signs. I don't know why, I didn't see it coming, or I knew something was wrong, but I just thought it was the alcohol and possibly the marijuana that was kicking in. I didn't know it was something quite as serious as this. And when he said that to me, I felt really, really stupid, and it really made me. I'm kind of beating myself up over that constantly. It's just a real guilt feeling that I carry around, that I as an educator and as a mom, was kind of blinded by this whole thing, and just couldn't see it.
I feel myself it might have been a time that I should have yanked him out of here, even though it's still difficult when you have someone who's, 19 or 20 at the time, and got him into therapy. I say that now. I'm not sure how I would have done it at the time, but, as I look back, and unfortunately, it just progressed more and more.